Imagine you're running a business, every sale you lose, every client who walks away, every deal that never closes. It costs you not just money, but momentum, energy. Now, replace client with partner. Replace deal with connection. Replace growth with love. When you're in a relationship with an avoidant person, it's like running a business where the customer is scared to buy even when they desperately want what you're offering. They peek into your store, they admire the product, but the moment you step forward, they back away. Not because you're not valuable, but because their system is wired to protect them from what they want most. So here's the truth. You can't beg your way into their heart. You can't guilt, chase, or pressure them into connection. What you need is a strategy. The same kind of strategy that builds multi-million-dollar businesses. Only this time it's building trust, safety, and desire in a human heart. When you're dealing with an avoidant person, most people make the same fatal mistake. They try to change the behavior without ever understanding the why behind it. That's like trying to sell a product without knowing what your customer actually wants. Or worse, trying to convince them to buy something they believe will hurt them. You can't move forward until you know exactly what you're dealing with. An avoidant person is not cold for no reason. They've trained themselves, consciously or unconsciously, to protect their emotions by keeping distance. Somewhere in their history, maybe in childhood, maybe in a past relationship, they learned that getting too close equals getting hurt. So every time they feel that closeness building, alarms go off in their mind. Danger! Protect yourself. And just like that, they pull away, shut down, or distract themselves. Here's the game changer. Instead of taking it personally, start seeing it as market research. If you were running a company and customers kept abandoning their cart at checkout, you wouldn't cry about it. You'd investigate. You'd look for patterns, test different approaches, find out what's triggering that last-minute pullback. It's the same here. Study their emotional patterns like you're studying your most important client. When do they open up the most? When do they retreat? What topics make them lean in with curiosity? Which ones make them tense up? What's their buying signal for emotional connection? Do they text more when they feel safe? Do they talk about the future? Do they initiate small physical touches? And equally important, what's their red flag that tells you they're about to shut down? Every avoidant has specific triggers: feeling controlled, being judged, too much emotional intensity too quickly, or sensing they're losing independence. If you can identify these triggers, you can navigate around them, not by pretending they don't exist, but by pacing the relationship in a way that keeps them engaged instead of overwhelmed. This is not manipulation, it's understanding the psychology of the person in front of you. In business, the most successful companies obsess over customer needs until they know them better than the customers know themselves. In relationships, that same level of understanding turns you from a threat in their mind to a safe harbor they can actually approach. And when that shift happens, their walls start to come down without you even asking. Most people make the mistake of thinking that if they just keep asking, pushing, or proving their worth, the avoidant person will eventually let them in. But here's the truth. Pressure destroys trust with someone whose natural instinct is to guard themselves. The more you push, the more they pull away. It's like trying to catch a butterfly with a net. You might get close, but the moment they sense capture, they're gone. The winning move is to flip the script. Give value without demanding anything in return. Think about how the most successful businesses operate. They don't start by saying, "Buy from me now." They start by offering value for free. They give you a taste, a sample, a piece of insight that improves your life before you've spent a single dollar. And what happens? You start trusting them. You start associating them with positive feelings. You start wanting to come back. With an avoidant person, emotional value works the same way. It might be as simple as making them laugh without turning it into a heavy, "we need to talk" conversation. It might be showing genuine interest in their hobbies, even if those hobbies aren't yours. It could be sending them a thoughtful message in the middle of the day, not to demand attention, but just to add something uplifting to their world. The power here is in consistency without pressure. If they disappear for a bit, you don't chase or guilt them. You keep your life full, your energy positive, and your interactions light yet meaningful when they resurface. This doesn't mean you're being fake. It means you're creating a space where they feel safe to come toward you because they know you won't trap them. Think about the psychology of a high-value brand. They don't beg customers to choose them. They demonstrate so much value that customers feel naturally drawn in. You're not lowering your standards or hiding your feelings. You're showing that your worth isn't dependent on their instant validation. That in itself is magnetic. And here's the irony: when an avoidant person experiences you as someone who can give value without trying to cash it in for closeness, their nervous system starts to relax. They begin to feel like you're not a threat to their independence, but a source of energy they actually want around. That's when connection stops being something they run from and starts becoming something they quietly, almost subconsciously, seek out. Trust is the currency of every lasting connection, and with an avoidant person, it's the only currency that matters. You can have attraction, you can have great conversations, you can even have moments of deep intimacy. But if they don't trust you at a core level, they will always keep one foot out the door. And here's the tricky part: trust for an avoidant is not built in grand declarations or big emotional speeches. It's built in small, consistent actions that prove, over time, you are safe. Think about how a premium brand earns loyalty. They don't just tell you their product is great. They deliver the same high-quality experience every single time you interact with them. They're reliable. They meet your expectations over and over again until you stop questioning them. That's exactly how it works with someone whose instincts are to protect themselves. Every time you show up in a steady, non-threatening way, you're making a deposit into their trust account. This could be as simple as keeping your word, no matter how small the promise. If you say you'll call at a certain time, you do. If you agree to meet, you show up on time without excuses. These may seem like little things, but for someone who expects others to eventually disappoint them, these moments are everything. The other side of this is emotional trust. Avoidants often fear that if they show their vulnerable side, it will be used against them. If they open up to you about something personal, the way you respond can either build a bridge or burn it down. A safe response is one without judgment, without trying to fix them, and without turning the conversation into a lecture. Just listen, acknowledge, and respect the fact that they shared something important. Over time, your goal is to create a pattern they can't ignore. When they take a small emotional risk with you, they always end up feeling better, lighter, more respected, not trapped or exposed. Once their mind begins to associate you with safety rather than threat, their defenses start lowering on their own. Trust isn't earned by trying to rush intimacy. It's earned by proving over and over that you are someone whose presence doesn't cost them their freedom. And when that realization clicks for them, they stop guarding themselves against you and start leaning into you without fear. Scarcity is one of the fastest ways to create panic in an avoidant person's mind. The moment they feel like your love, attention, or presence is something they might lose, or that you're desperate to keep them, they instinctively start pulling back. This is not because they don't value you, but because scarcity triggers their deepest fears: fear of being trapped, fear of losing themselves, fear of being smothered. Ironically, the more you try to hold on tightly, the more they feel the need to escape. That's why removing scarcity is one of the most powerful shifts you can make. In business, a brand that acts like there's only one chance to buy often loses trust if the customer feels manipulated. People like to choose, not be cornered. The same psychology applies here. When your energy communicates abundance instead of desperation, you create a sense of freedom, and freedom is exactly what an avoidant needs to feel safe enough to connect. This means you operate from the mindset that you are whole, valuable, and fulfilled with or without their constant reassurance. You have your own life, your own passions, and your own purpose outside of them. You're not showing up in their world because you need them to validate you. You're there because you want them in your already rich, full life. That shift in energy is magnetic. When you remove scarcity, you stop overreacting to their distance. If they need space, you don't panic. You give it to them without resentment. You're not punishing them, not throwing emotional tantrums, and not threatening the connection. This shows them you respect their boundaries, and more importantly, it removes the pressure that makes them feel like being with you means losing themselves. The abundance mindset also changes how you communicate. Instead of chasing, you invite. Instead of demanding time together, you create opportunities they want to say yes to. Instead of needing them to constantly prove their love, you appreciate the moments they choose to show it. Over time, this flips their experience of you. You go from being someone they need to guard against to someone whose presence feels easy, light, and safe. When they realize you're not competing for their attention like it's a scarce resource, their guard comes down. The irony is that when you act like you don't have to win their love to survive, that's when they start offering it more freely. Positioning yourself as the prize is not about arrogance. It's about embodying the truth that you are a person of value, with or without the relationship. With avoidant individuals, this is especially powerful because they are hypersensitive to imbalance. The moment they feel like you've placed them on a pedestal and demoted yourself to a lower position, they unconsciously lose attraction and respect. It's not malicious, it's simply how their protective wiring works. If you're constantly chasing, over-giving, or bending your boundaries to keep them close, you're confirming their fear that intimacy means losing equality and control. In business, premium brands don't beg people to choose them. They stand firm in their worth. They make it clear through their presentation, consistency, and results that they are the best option. People then feel fortunate to be associated with that brand. You want to apply the same psychology to your emotional presence. You are not auditioning for a role in their life. They are auditioning for a role in yours. That doesn't mean you treat them with coldness or arrogance. It means you interact from a place of self-respect and unshakable inner value. This starts with maintaining your own life outside the relationship. You keep your hobbies alive, you grow your skills, you nurture your friendships, and you work on your goals. When you have a strong, fulfilling life of your own, it sends a powerful message. You are not dependent on them for happiness, and you are bringing something substantial to the table. This makes you far more attractive because avoidants are drawn to people who can stand confidently on their own. Another layer is how you set and hold boundaries. The prize doesn't allow just anyone to handle it carelessly. It's protected, valued, and treated with respect. If something they do crosses your boundaries, you address it calmly but firmly, without fear of losing them. This communicates that you're not afraid to walk away if the connection stops being healthy. That kind of self-assured energy is compelling, even to someone who fears closeness. When you position yourself as the prize, you shift the dynamic entirely. You stop being the pursuer and become the person worth pursuing. Instead of worrying about keeping their attention, you naturally command it because you radiate the rare combination of self-respect, independence, and emotional generosity. And when they start seeing you this way, it triggers a deep curiosity. They begin to wonder how to earn more of your presence, rather than you constantly trying to earn theirs. Emotional marketing is about creating an experience so powerful, so memorable, that the other person begins to associate you with feelings they can't find anywhere else. In the business world, great companies don't just sell products, they sell emotions. They make you feel inspired, valued, understood, and connected. That's why people return to them again and again. When it comes to an avoidant relationship, this principle is just as relevant. You're not forcing closeness. You're crafting moments that naturally draw them toward you. For someone with avoidant tendencies, connection can feel risky. They've learned to guard themselves from emotional pain, so they approach relationships with a high level of caution. If every interaction feels like a negotiation for intimacy, they'll instinctively keep their distance. But if your interactions feel like a source of joy, curiosity, and lightness, they start to lower their guard without even realizing it. That's emotional marketing, shaping experiences that shift how they feel around you. This can be as simple as sharing a spontaneous adventure together, like trying a new restaurant or exploring a part of town they've never visited. It could be creating private jokes that belong only to the two of you, moments that make them smile long after you've parted ways. It might be listening to them talk about something they care about and remembering small details to bring up later, showing them that you genuinely hear them. These small yet intentional acts build an emotional brand in their mind. You become the person who consistently makes their world feel lighter and more alive. The key is authenticity. Emotional marketing doesn't work if it's manipulative or fake. The energy you bring has to come from a genuine desire to share positivity, not from a strategy to trap them into staying. People can sense the difference, and avoidants are especially sensitive to insincerity. Over time, these moments create a mental connection. Being with you equals feeling good. That's when their nervous system starts associating you with safety instead of threat. And once that happens, you no longer have to convince them to stay or open up. They'll begin seeking you out, not because they feel pressured, but because they want more of what only you can give them. Making the long-term offer irresistible is about painting a future so vivid, so emotionally charged, that the other person can't help but imagine themselves in it. In the business world, successful companies don't just sell a product for today. They sell the lifestyle, the transformation, the bigger picture of what life will look like once you've chosen them. With someone who has avoidant tendencies, this principle works the same way, but it has to be handled with finesse. You're not pushing them to commit, you're inviting them to dream. Avoidants often live in the present when it comes to relationships because the future feels uncertain and risky. They may avoid planning too far ahead as a way of protecting themselves from disappointment. That means you can't present the future as a binding contract. They'll reject that instantly. Instead, you weave it into your conversations naturally, almost casually, so they start to see it without feeling trapped by it. For example, instead of saying, "We should go on a big trip next year," you might share a story about a place you'd love to visit, describing the smells, the sights, the energy of it, and then add, "I could totally see us laughing our way through that market." Or, "I can imagine you loving that food. It's light, it's playful, and it plants a seed without pressure." The same applies to everyday life. You might talk about a home filled with music and warmth, about traditions you'd love to start, about weekends spent doing things you both enjoy. The idea is to create emotional snapshots, tiny glimpses of what life together could feel like if they leaned in more. You're selling not just the concept of a relationship, but a version of connection that feels safe, exciting, and deeply fulfilling. Over time, this vision starts working on their subconscious. They begin to picture themselves in these moments, and because you've presented them without force, there's no resistance. Instead of feeling like the future is a threat to their freedom, they start seeing it as a place where their freedom and connection can coexist. When the future looks not only possible but desirable, and when it's tied directly to positive emotions they already experience with you, that's when the long-term offer becomes irresistible. They're no longer guarding themselves from it, they're slowly, quietly moving toward it, often without realizing they've already begun to choose it. In business, there's a saying, the fortune is in the follow-up. You can have the best product, the best pitch, and the most genuine connection, but if you don't nurture it over time, the momentum fades. With an avoidant relationship, follow-up isn't about chasing them after every moment of distance. It's about steady, consistent actions that keep the connection alive without triggering their instinct to pull away. Avoidant individuals often need more time than others to process emotions and rebuild comfort after moments of closeness. If you push too hard during these pauses, you risk undoing the progress you've made. But if you let the space stretch without any warmth or touch points, the connection can cool off completely. The art of follow-up is finding the balance, reminding them of the bond without crowding them. This can be as subtle as a short, thoughtful message after a meaningful interaction. Something simple, light, and pressure-free, like "that was fun yesterday," or "still laughing about what you said." It's not an invitation to a heavy conversation. It's a small spark that reignites the positive feelings they associate with you. Over time, these micro-reminders stack up, creating a consistent thread of connection that feels safe. Follow-up also means paying attention to timing. If they've just shared something vulnerable, you might circle back a day or two later to mention it, not to pry, but to show you listened and valued what they said. This reinforces the idea that opening up to you leads to being heard and understood, not judged or overwhelmed. The other key is variety. Follow-up doesn't always have to be verbal. It could be a song you send that made you think of them, a shared inside joke, a photo of something that connects to a past moment together. These small gestures work like touch points in a marketing campaign. They keep your presence in their mind in a positive, low-pressure way. When you follow up with warmth, patience, and consistency, you train their nervous system to expect that your presence is steady, not conditional. You're not there only when things are intense, and you don't vanish the moment they need space. Over time, this reliability becomes magnetic. The avoidant starts realizing that letting you closer doesn't mean losing themselves. It means gaining someone who knows how to stay connected in a way that feels good, safe, and lasting. When you step back and look at the entire strategy, it becomes clear that fixing an avoidant relationship is not about tricks, manipulation, or convincing someone to feel differently. It's about shifting the entire dynamic from fear-based to trust-based. Every point in this process works together like the gears of a finely tuned business model. You start by deeply understanding their emotional patterns, learning their triggers, and respecting their unique psychology. Then, instead of trying to force a connection, you lead with value, patience, and consistency, just as a great brand earns loyalty before it ever asks for a sale. By doing this, you're not just keeping them in your life, you're creating the environment where they want to stay. At the core of this is emotional safety. Avoidants aren't pushing you away because they don't care. They're protecting themselves from a pain they've been conditioned to expect. By removing scarcity, you take away the pressure that fuels their need for distance. By positioning yourself as the prize, you change the dynamic entirely, showing them you are someone worth pursuing, not someone desperate to be chosen. These subtle but powerful shifts alter the emotional equation in their mind. Being close to you no longer equals losing themselves, but instead equals gaining someone who respects both connection and independence. The power of emotional marketing comes into play when you deliberately create experiences that leave them feeling uplifted, understood, and inspired. You stop selling the relationship and instead let them taste the emotional benefits of being with you. Joy, ease, laughter, adventure. Once their nervous system begins associating you with safety and positivity, the vision of a shared future becomes much more appealing. And because you present this vision lightly without force, they don't resist it. They begin imagining it for themselves. This is how you shift their perception of commitment from a threat into an invitation. Finally, the follow-up seals the deal. In the same way a successful business nurtures its customer base, you nurture the connection with small, thoughtful gestures that remind them of the bond without crowding their space. This balance between presence and freedom is what makes them start leaning toward you without fear. You're no longer trying to get them to love you. You're creating the conditions where love becomes the natural outcome. And in those conditions, even someone who fears closeness will begin to let down their guard. In the end, the most powerful business strategy for fixing an avoidant relationship is really about mastering your own emotional leadership. You become the steady, secure, inspiring presence that makes closeness feel not only safe but deeply desirable. You're not playing games, you're not losing yourself, and you're not begging for affection. You're building a connection that's sustainable, magnetic, and real. When you operate from this place of strength and clarity, you don't just keep the relationship alive, you transform it into something both of you can grow in, trust in, and choose again every single day. Thank you so much for being here and investing your time, energy, and attention into this message today. I hope these insights gave you clarity, strength, and the tools to transform not just your relationship, but the way you show up in every area of your life. Remember, real change begins the moment you decide to take action. And every small step you take today is shaping the connection you'll have tomorrow. If this resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs this reminder right now. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a future session. Your growth matters, your happiness matters, and the love you want to create is possible. I believe in you. Keep moving forward, keep showing up, and keep building the kind of life and love you truly deserve. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye for now.